Hello, and welcome to this week's instructional PowerPoint on language development and phonemic skills. This instructional clip will help us develop common understanding and terminology around phonemic skills and the role they play in reading. So let's dig deeper into understanding phonemic awareness, if that term is new to you. Please notice the definition at the top. Phonemic awareness is the ability to notice, think about, and work with the individual sounds in spoken words. Before children even learn to read print, they need to become aware of how the sounds in words work. They must understand that words are made up of speech sounds, which we call phonemes. After children develop phonological and phonemic awareness, they learn that letters, which we call graphemes, represent those sounds in written language. This is what we call phonics instruction, when they make the connection between sounds and letters. If children are not able to hear or manipulate the phonemes in spoken words, they'll have a difficult time learning how to relate sounds to letters when they see them in print, which we call phoneme-grapheme mapping. Therefore, if children are to benefit from phonics instruction, we need to ensure they have developed the related phonemic awareness skills that they need. Phonological awareness and phonemic awareness are often confused, yet are different. This graphic helps explain how phonological awareness and phonemic awareness connect to each other and to phonics instruction in reading development. In this diagram, phonological awareness is the overarching rain cloud floating in the sky of phonology or sound, and its raindrops or components include word awareness, rhyming, syllables, and phonemic awareness. The rain mixes with the earth, or the sounds mix with written letters in phonics, and together they help the flower, or reading and writing, to develop. This is a graphic of the phonemes or sounds that children learn. Phonemes are the smallest parts of sound in a spoken word that make a difference in the word's meaning. There are a few variations on exactly how many phonemes exist in English, and it depends on the different instructional programs you use. They can range between 41 to 40 different phonemes. The reason for this isn't completely clear and probably is influenced by regional dialects or different strains of research. This is a graphic of the phonemes or discrete sounds in the English language from a secondary reading intervention program for teaching decoding called System 44. Even though we have 27 letters in the English alphabet, you'll notice 20 vowel sounds and 24 consonant sounds represented on this chart. Notice the slash marks surrounding letters in this chart. This indicates a phoneme or sound and not the name of the letter. So in the first row, we have the sound B, exemplified by the word bat. During phonemic instruction, the teacher needs to be careful not to call a letter by its name, but actually to use its sound instead. You might say, bat is spelled B-at, not B-A-T. As we saw on the last slide, 44 phonemes are represented by 26 letters. A single letter or grapheme can sometimes represent more than one phoneme or sound, and that's why it gets tricky. For example, consider the grapheme A, which can manifest as the 5 different phonemic sounds found in at, ate, want, any, and was. Furthermore, a single phoneme can sometimes be represented by more than one grapheme. For example, the f sound can be represented by the letters F, like in fan, or PH, as in phone, or GH, like in laugh. Some unhappy graphemes don't represent any sound. Those are our silent letters. For example, consider the K in not and the final E in mine. And finally, some letters don't represent a unique or distinctive sound. The letter C could manifest as the S sound or the K sound, depending on context. And the letters Q and X have no distinctive sound. I hope you're not confused. I haven't even touched on diphthongs. The point here is that there isn't an easy one-to-one correspondence between phoneme and grapheme. Therefore, because there are hundreds of spellings that can be used to represent the 44 phonemes, it's important that we teach only the most common. Phonemes can be divided into two major categories, consonants and vowels. For consonants, the airflow is cut off or obstructed, as in t, but for vowels, the airflow is unobstructed, as in ah. So far, we have already looked at developing some terminology around phonemic skills, so now we're going to look at the role they play in reading. Key findings from scientific research on phonemic awareness instruction tell us a few different important things. First, children who have stronger phonemic awareness skills are likely to have an easier time learning to read as well as to spell. Another key finding shows that phonemic awareness can be taught and learned in a very predictable developmental pattern. Every child goes through the same pattern of learning. It just might be at a different rate. So effective phonemic awareness instruction teaches children to notice, to think about, and to work with or manipulate sounds in a spoken language. Teachers use many different activities to build phonemic awareness, and I've included a list on this slide. Phoneme isolation, identity, categorization, blending, segmentation, deletion, addition, and substitution. More coming on that later. An example of phoneme isolation is when children recognize individual sounds in a word instead of just the word as one unit. So the teacher might ask, what's the first sound in bat? And the student might answer, B. I'll share this handout with you that goes through an example of each of the types of activities I mentioned on the previous slide. Please take some time to look this over. The connection between phonemic awareness and phonics instruction is so very important because phonics instruction builds on the phonemic awareness foundation. Strong phonemic awareness and phonics skills are directly correlated to a student's ability to read words rapidly and accurately, which in turn paves the way for stronger reading comprehension. Teaching phonemic awareness, and particularly how to segment words into phonemes, helps children learn to spell. The explanation for this may be that children who have phonemic awareness understand that sounds and letters are related in a predictable way. Therefore, they are able to relate the sounds to letters as they spell the words. Instructionally, teachers should focus on aspects of phonemic awareness first, before moving into written words and letters, which we call phonics instruction. Here's an example of an ideal and seamless connection between phonemic awareness and phonics instruction when a child is ready to move to that point in their education. The teacher might say, listen, I'm going to say the sounds in the word jam. J-am. What is the word? Jam. So you say the sounds in the word jam. J-am. Now let's write the sounds in jam. J, I write a J. A, I write an A. I write an M. Now I have the word jam written on the board. Now we're going to read the word jam. J-am, jam. At younger grades, there are often required phonological screeners, diagnostic assessments, and progress monitoring tools. PALS is one example. In older grades, assessment may not be done with all students, but rather instruction occurs within a reading intervention to fill educational gaps. Some students are going to need assessment and instruction more often than others, or in more detail than others. We need to pre-assess to find out who needs explicit instruction, which skills should be taught, and what is the best sequence for that child. We would want to know, are they in the early stages and need help with identifying initial sounds, or are they further along and need help with something like blending and deleting a sound? There are some important considerations for older students as well. It's important that older students have a strong foundation of phonemic awareness in order to become strong, independent readers. However, we can't just assume they all can decode words fluently. In the middle grades, 6, 7, 8, it's often assumed that students have already learned and mastered the basic foundational reading skills and no longer need this kind of instruction. Therefore, reading instruction time is minimal, and the focus instead is on learning the content and using reading strategies. Furthermore, students are expected to read more extensively to learn. These students encounter an increasing number of multisyllabic words with complex spelling patterns, and the texts increase dramatically in rigor and complexity with additional Tier 3 vocabulary and Tier 2 vocabulary used in new ways. So, adolescents who struggle to learn disguise their reading difficulties. They might attempt to fake read. Some of these students who struggle during the reading process may struggle with phonemic awareness or decoding. Others may be struggling with comprehension. Some we call word callers. They can't decode but don't understand. They can decode but they don't understand or recall. And still others may struggle with attention issues or disengagement. This makes diagnostic assessment essential so that students get the exact help that they need. A strong foundation in phonics is still important in secondary grades, and phonological development is an essential and regular component of this instruction. Sometimes a lack of knowledge becomes noticeable for the first time in these years as the shift in our instruction changes. These types of skills equip older students to tackle new and unfamiliar words and are essential for our adolescents. If a student has not mastered phonological and phonics skills by third grade or later, typically they will need targeted intervention. Here is a list of essential definitions that we've discussed in this presentation. I'll share this handout with you, and I'd like you to take some time to look this over. Please consider these resources as you delve into your readings this week. Thanks, and have a wonderful week.